Okay, so obviously the title is clickbait, and I can't say for sure that the writers or even the original source material are intentional about this. This is more of a silly little thought experiment to explain how I have connected to this show, specifically the first 6 episodes, and honestly just say positive things about it in the midst of everything right now. But first, I'll do a quick general overview of the series for anyone who hasn't seen it, especially if they have not read the manga. Whisper Me a Love Song is a series about the relationship between Himari and Yori. Himari expresses admiration for Yori, who mistakes her admiration for romantic love. Before long, though, Yori falls in love with Himari and makes a vow to win her over, all while Yori spends her time helping and playing with a rock band, which comes with its own drama. I do not know where to begin with this show on a narrative and character level. I cannot think of another show that makes me say me core. The discussions of love and romance are right up my alley for reasons I'll get to in a little bit. The music is genuinely great, the characters and their banter are fun, the visual gags are charming as heck, and the overall vibe of the show is cozy and warm. It captures my personal aesthetic greatly. Its only weak point that I can think of is, unfortunately, the inconsistent animation, which honestly you can just skip to this part of the video to hear more of my thoughts on it if you don't want spoilers. In the meantime, I'm not really gonna say my predictions and other nonsense like sound euphonium. I'm instead going to detail my personal experience with the first 6 episodes of this show specifically, and in honor of Pride Month, through the lens of my own sexuality, and this is where the title of the video will start to make sense. Out of the lineup of shows this year, the one that I was the most looking forward to was honestly not Sound Euphonium, it was Whisper Me a Love Song. I remember scrolling through shows that would air in spring and coming across this and thinking, holy crap, a romance series with guitars? Yeah, the guitarist in me knew that I needed to see this, and the premiere episode so far is easily the most magical and ethereal experience I have had this year. It is genuinely perfect from beginning to end. Though I remember getting to the end with Yori promising she'll make Himari fall for her and being a little afraid of what was to come. Part of me trusted the story would be great, but another part of me was worried if it was going to rely on this one-sided crush gimmick too much. Like, I love Adachi to Shimamura, but the fact that Adachi's crush is one-sided never is not frustrating. However, the second episode greatly rectified this, and was also an equally majestic experience. Seeing Himari and Yori go out and actually spend time together was wholly endearing, and Yori straight up confessing was a huge catharsis for me. But what genuinely shocked me about this was seeing how Himari processed Yori's feelings and her own feelings. Even through the rough production issues of every episode past that, I was so captivated by Himari's struggle with romance, and that is partly because of my personal experience. I probably said this a few times before, and even if I haven't, you might have gotten this vibe from my videos before, but I am Aro Ace. Probably, which essentially means that I experience little to no romantic or physically intimate attraction. This has probably been said enough, but Jaden has a really good video on her experiences being Aro Ace and what exactly it entails, and some of my experiences are a bit similar to hers. I can't really form crushes, and I find it very difficult to understand what being romantically into someone feels like. At one point, I considered myself demi, which is experiencing romantic attraction only after forming an emotional bond, but I've formed many powerful bonds with some new friends throughout my freshman year in college, and if you were to ask me if I wanted to be romantically involved with any of them, I'd be like, no. Anyway, these experiences and reflections on the nature of relationships and love are things that I brought into watching Whisper Me a Love Song. And with that context, there were so many aspects of Himari's development and relationships with other characters that I latched onto. I've never been a big fan of romances that pulled the "what are these feelings" card. I think it's a very dumb excuse for slow burn development, and it especially gets frustrating when it creates misunderstandings and scenarios that no real budding relationship could ever survive through. It works sometimes, but it just gets old. But Himari's development in Whisper Me a Love Song is less of what are these feelings, and more so, what am I supposed to feel? And that is a distinction that I found incredibly fascinating. It is so interesting and exhilarating to see how much Himari cares about and respects Yori's feelings while still exploring her own feelings and learning from other people's perspectives on what romance means. I love when Himari talked with Miki about her experience with her ex-boyfriend and how it led to her questioning what would happen if she went out with Yori even though she didn't exactly reciprocate her feelings. It introduces Himari to the idea of what someone is supposed to feel when they love someone, like how they want to hold their hand or hug them or kiss them, except Himari doesn't exactly feel that way, so that makes her question her feelings again. When Himari joined Momoka's club and talked about her conundrum with her, that was another big step in her development and was a series of really sweet and effective moments. I love how Momoka brought up the idea of giving a gift as a way of showing affection. It's a remarkable point on how love between couples isn't always the physical stuff, which Himari undoubtedly understands through her desire to give Yori some handmade sweets. And when Momoka says that everyone has their own definition of what it means to love someone, I took that line very deeply to heart. And it's not just Himari's journey that's beautiful, Yori's journey in exploring her own feelings is equally powerful, and her struggling to write a love song for the longest time, only to finally come across a reason to write a love song, that definitely hits home. Her journey is admittedly more of the what are these feelings type, but it is done very well and kinda over very fast, and it doesn't make it any less adorable. I guess if I had to point out one discussion of love that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, it would be Himari's mom's story. Not that it's problematic, but I got really worried when the story was that her dad just kept asking her mom over and over until she said yes, and that Himari would take the wrong lesson from it. Thankfully, that didn't happen. Himari and Yori's communication throughout the first half of the show is so refreshing to see, but what is equally as refreshing is how Himari communicates her respect towards Yori's feelings. Never once does she downplay them, minimize them, or put them off for later. She constantly puts Yori as a priority. She may not understand aspects of romance and love, but she does eventually want to share that same emotional closeness with Yori. And that's what makes the confession in episode 6 so special to me. After seeing how hard Himari worked to build up the courage and learn from her family and friends about what love means to them, and then thinking over and over about what love means to her and what kind of love she wants to give Yori, someone very important to her, I was rooting for her to take the plunge and step into a new and beautiful experience that is also freaking terrifying. And then to see them get together and so far being super cute and healthy together has also been exhilarating. This might actually be the very first time I cried at a confession scene. I was just in awe and taken aback by how well written and thought out every part of this romantic tale is. I felt seen in every facet of this moment. Though I do wish we could have removed Yori's monologue, since I really wanted to hear her lyrics and we probably would have gotten the gist of her feelings from the song anyway. So far, Himari and Yori have been super cute together with thankfully no misunderstanding BS. It doesn't seem like their relationship will be a central focus, as it seems to have shifted to the drama in the band. However, that was also the other aspect of the show I was wanting to connect to that I'm finally glad we're exploring. And considering Yori and especially Himari's influence on certain characters, I do think their relationship will play an important role in mending the bonds between Shiho and the band. Then again, just like Sound Euphonium, all we have to do is wait. So that's my experience with Whisper Me a Love Song so far. Sure, it's not an intentional or explicit exploration of the Ace experience, or even a suitable stand-in for the Ace community as a whole, but it is the part of the show I connected with the most as someone who is Ace, or at least someone on that spectrum. And that part alone makes this one of my personal favorites of the year, and I really hope it sticks to landing to the point where it can make my top 10 or even 5 shows of the year. At the end of the day, I just wanted to talk about something positive with this show, since the only news going around right now amongst fans is how inconsistent the animation is, and how most of that is Yokohama and Cloud Hearts' fault. And yeah, it's bad. It would take forever for me to say my entire piece on this, but nutshelled, There were 2 threads that came out some time ago about the horrible working conditions of the animators at these studios, and honestly, it is one of the worst production horror stories I have ever heard. And it doesn't help that you can see the struggle in the show, as there are many instances of height inconsistencies, lighting inconsistencies, and the mics in episode 7 are easily the worst offenders. But you want to know what's more depressing? To me, the animation is literally the only thing holding this back from being a 9 or even a 10 out of 10. It is one thing for the animation to be not up to par alongside other narrative and technical flaws. It is another for it to be the only thing keeping a show from reaching true heights. And that sucks, because everything else about Whisper Me a Love Song is nigh perfect. The writing, the dialogue, the characters, the emotion, the humor, the music, so much of it. So when the only thing holding it back is something you can see right in front of you, it honestly sticks out more. But what is just as sad is how unsurprising this is, because my biggest fear as an animation major is how much the industry sucks right now. Artists left and right are being exploited by greedy, impatient, abhorrent higher-ups, and unfortunately, Whisper Me a Love Song's production is another example of that. I am at least glad that they delayed the next episode for 2 weeks, but when considering the fact that the episodes on average are finished mere hours before they air, 2 weeks is honestly way too short. My one hope is that their workload is just light enough so that the last 2 episodes can be on the same visual quality as the first 2, but that's not very likely. I understand hardcore fans of the manga not liking it because of the animation, but with the context of everything going on, I personally think it is a miracle that this was even made as well as it is, and that there is still a good amount of people who genuinely enjoy it. And honestly, I think the animation is not as bad as people say. Rewatching certain scenes, it is better than I remember. There are only 2 or 3 moments per episode that look off, while the rest of it honestly looks really cute, genuinely beautiful, and a lot of the visual gags are still retained and very funny. And to be honest, I would take an inconsistently animated but faithful adaptation 100 times before a more consistently animated adaptation that gets everything about the source material wrong. I would say give it a watch if you're the kind of person who fixates more on the story than the animation. Whisper Me a Love Song and its animators will definitely get a lot of crap that they do not deserve, but I really do hope that the people working on this know that what they're making is genuinely beautiful and sweet and has the ability to reach many people's hearts. At the very least, it reached my heart. The only people who do deserve the hate, though, whatever corporate overlord at Yokohama and Cloud Hearts decided to play God. And to that person, I say, once you're done with this, drop it and give it to someone else. Anyway, that took a while. In the meantime, happy Pride Month to everyone. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time.
What it seems like, 'cause this girl thinks I'm part of her world, and that new territory is scary. If I turn the handle, am I asking for a scandal? Should I try to be ordinary?